Hi, friends, and welcome back. Tonight I am taking you to a city you know. In a summer, nobody who lived through it ever forgot. It is August of 1896, and you are about to spend one night on the fourth floor of a brick tenement on Orchard Street in New York. During the deadliest heat wave the city has ever known. For 9 days the sun has been working on those bricks like a baker who will not leave the oven alone. Close to 1,300 people in New York and neighboring Brooklyn will not live to see the cool weather come back. That is the truth of it. And we will honor it. And then we will set it down gently. Because tonight is the 10th night. Tonight is the night the wind finally turns. The people in this building have learned things, one hard night at a time. How to carry a sleeping child up an iron ladder. How to make 10 pounds of ice do the work of 50. How to find the one cool hour hiding inside a burning night. Tonight, they are going to teach you. And somehow, some way, you are going to sleep. If these journeys help you drift off, a like or a subscribe truly helps me keep making them. And tell me in the comments where you are listening from and what the weather is doing outside your window right now. I love knowing this story is settling like night air over different corners of the world at the same moment. Now, dim the lights, pull the sheet up, or kick it off. The people in this story would understand either way. The city below is still awake, and somewhere above it, under the open sky, there is a place being kept for you. The room measures 4 steps by 5, and you know this because you have just walked it, quietly, in your socks, while the family that lives here pretends not to watch the new boarder take inventory of his 10 cents a week. 10 cents a week buys you a straw mattress in the corner of the back room, 4th floor, of a brick building on Orchard Street that holds more human beings than the village you left 3 days ago. You came in on the train from the countryside with a canvas bag and a letter of introduction to a foreman at the docks, and a cousin's advice ringing in your ears. Find a decent family, pay your rent on Saturdays, and stay off the street after dark. The family is the Brennans. The rent is paid. And as for the street after dark, well, you are about to learn that in August of 1896, the street after dark is where half the city lives. It is 9 o'clock in the evening, and the sun has been down for almost 2 hours. And here is the first thing this room wants you to understand about it. Put your hand flat against the wall. You do it without thinking, steadying yourself as you step around your mattress, and your hand comes away from the plaster, the way it would come away from the side of a kettle that somebody boiled an hour ago. Warm. Honestly, truly warm. Warm like a living thing. Warm like the flank of a horse. The sun let go of this building at 7. The building has no intention of letting go of the sun. You stand there with your palm tingling and you look at that wall with new respect, and Mr. Brennan, who is sitting by the window in his undershirt, with his boots off, watches you do it, and gives one slow nod, the nod of a man watching somebody else learn a thing he learned a long time ago. Brick drinks heat all day, he says. Drinks it like a man drinks beer. Then it spends the whole night giving it back. He tips his head at the wall behind you. That one there catches the afternoon sun full on. By supper time she is just getting started. The room holds 7 people tonight. Brennan and his wife. Their boy Tommy, 9 years old, asleep already, or performing sleep on a pallet by the stove. The baby, 5 months old, lying in a wicker basket with her arms thrown over her head the way babies surrender to hot weather. An old lodger named Schmidt, who rents floor space in the front room, same as you rent yours in the back. And you? 2 rooms, 7 people. 1 window. The window is open as far as it will go, and you keep looking at it, because where you come from, an open window in August means something. It means the smell of cut hay. It means crickets. It means a curtain that lifts and falls all night like the house is breathing. This window opens onto a shaft between buildings. A brick slot, maybe 3 feet across, running from the sky down to a floor of old bottles and newspaper 5 stories below. If you lean out, and you do lean out once, you can touch the wall of the next building with your fingertips. Above you, a strip of night sky, the width of a bootlace. The air in that shaft does not move. It stands in there like water in a well, and it smells of every supper cooked in 40 kitchens. And it is warmer, you would swear it, than the air in the room. Over the window hangs a lace curtain, a scrap of one, some pride of Mrs. Brennan's from another year. You will come to know that curtain the way a sailor knows a weather vane. Right now it hangs dead straight. It might as well be drawn on the wall. There is a kerosene lamp on the table, and nobody has lit it. There is a good iron cook stove against the wall, and it has been cold since noon. And Mrs. Brennan cooked supper on it anyway this morning. All of it before 8. Boiled everything at once and let it stand. Because a stove lit at supper time in this weather is not a stove. It is a decision against your own family. Cold potatoes tonight. Cold everything. Said with no complaint at all. And you understand that this too is a lesson. The first of many small measures that add up to getting through. You sit down on your mattress, and the straw crackles like it is thinking about catching fire on its own. And you take stock of yourself the way a man does his first night in a strange place. Your shirt has been stuck to your back since the ferry. There is a line of sweat behind each knee, faithful as a shadow. Your feet, out of their boots at last, feel like 2 loaves fresh from the oven, and your body keeps waiting, the way a body does, for the evening cool to arrive, that reliable country mercy, the one that has come every single night of your life until now. It is not coming. That is what the walls have been trying to tell you. Outside this building, the pavement is giving back its heat, and the cobblestones are giving back theirs, and the elevated railroad tracks, and the iron fire escapes, and the tin roofs. All of it. A whole city built out of materials that hoard the sun and pay it out again in the dark. The thermometer down at the drugstore on the corner read 90 at sundown. In this room, on the 4th floor, under a tar roof that spent all day in the light, you would not want to know what an honest thermometer would say. There are rooms in this city this week, the worst of them, the airless middle rooms with no window at all, that people who study such things later guessed may have neared 120 degrees. Nobody had to measure it to believe it. They were sleeping in it, or trying. The baby stirs in her basket and makes a small dry sound, a complaint with no strength behind it. And Mrs. Brennan is on her knees beside her. Before the sound is even finished, she dips a rag in the water bucket, wrings it to almost nothing, and touches it to the baby's wrists. One, and then the other. So lightly, it is barely a touch at all. The baby settles. The mother stays kneeling a moment longer, watching, with her own damp hair stuck to her own neck. And something about the practiced speed of it tells you she has made that exact motion 100 times in 9 nights. Down in the street, a horse goes by, slow, and you hear every hoof. 4 notes, unhurried, and then gone. Mr. Brennan pulls his boots toward him and begins, of all things, at this hour, to put them back on. You must be wondering, he says, working a heel in, why a man dresses at 9 in the evening. He gets the second boot on and stands and rolls his shoulders. And in the gray light from the window, you can see what 9 days of this weather have done to a big man. A certain care in how he moves, like he is carrying something he cannot put down. Nobody sleeps in here, son, he says. Not this week. This room will hold 95 degrees till morning, and be proud of it. He nods toward the ceiling, and above the ceiling, the sky. We sleep upstairs now. The whole building does. Have done for 9 nights running. Upstairs, you look at the ceiling, cracked plaster, a water stain shaped like Florida, and it takes you a second to understand. He does not mean the 5th floor. He means the roof. Mrs. Brennan is already moving, quiet and certain, the way people move inside a routine. And you sit there on your rented mattress with your heart doing something strange and light, because you are one day off the train, and it turns out the city has been keeping a secret from the countryside all this time. In August, in the tenements, in the year 1896, New York does not sleep in its beds. New York sleeps under the stars. While the family gathers itself, you learn the building, not with your eyes. There is nothing left to look at. The light is nearly gone, and nobody is wasting kerosene on heat. You learn it the way you are going to learn everything tonight, through your ears. Sitting still on a straw mattress in the dark, while a 6-story brick building full of human beings talks to itself around you. The walls here are 1 course of brick and a skin of plaster, and the window opens on that shaft. And the shaft is a speaking tube connecting 40 open windows. And so nothing that happens in this building tonight is entirely private, and nobody expects it to be. Privacy is a country custom. You will trade it over the next few hours for something you do not have a name for yet. Listen with me. Somewhere below, a woman is singing to a child in Italian, not performing, just circling the same 6 notes over and over, worn smooth as beach glass. The tune rising up the air shaft with the supper smell. 2 floors down, a man coughs. Pause. Coughs again. An old cough. Patient. A cough that has lived in this building longer than some of the tenants. From the floor directly above comes a slow, rhythmic creak. Wood on wood. and you cannot place it until it comes to you that somebody up there has a rocking chair and is rocking in the dark, because moving air is moving air, even if you have to make it yourself. Water sounds everywhere. That is the music of this week. A dipper knocking against a tin pail, the ring of a cloth over a basin, that particular twisting trickle, bare feet on floorboards, crossing, returning, down the hall, the tap at the sink, the whole floor shares, runs and stops, runs and stops. And each time it stops, you hear the pipe knock twice, like the building clearing its throat. And under everything, that low sound you could not name when you first climbed the stairs this afternoon. A sound like a congregation murmuring with the doors closed. It is people, all of them, hundreds in this building, thousands on this block, every window open, every voice dropped low because of the babies asleep and the heat lying on everyone's chest. All of it pouring into the streets and shafts and mixing into one long breathing hush. The countryside never once sounded like this. It is the sound of too many people being patient at the same time. Then a new sound cuts through it. From the street door, 4 floors below, boots on the stoop, slow ones. Mrs. Brennan lifts her head. That is himself, she says, meaning her husband, who went down 10 minutes ago to fill the big pail while the tap downstairs was free. But you can tell she is reading the boots, and you find you can read them too. The man who left this room walked heavy, but walked level. What is coming up the stairwell now is different. A step and a rest. A step and a rest. One hand on the rail, you would guess. 4 flights in a stairwell where the day's heat has gone to die. He comes in with the pail and sets it down without spilling a drop, which costs him something. And he stands there, a moment in the doorway, breathing. And Mrs. Brennan does not fuss, does not fly at him. She dips a cup and hands it over and says, "Small sips now." And he drinks it the way you would never drink on a day like this back home. A wet of the lips, a swallow, a long pause, another. 9 days ago. He tells you later. He drank a quart straight down at the docks and brought it right back up. And an old stevedore stood over him and said, "You water a wilted plant slow, boy, or you kill it." He has taken his water slow ever since. He sits, and the chair takes him with a groan, and for a while he talks, quiet, to the room in general. The day still working its way out of him. 10th day tomorrow, he says. 10th day. He says it the way a man says a number he has been carrying. Down at the docks they have quit pretending it is ordinary weather. The boss moved the gangs off the noon hours entirely. Works them dawn to 11. Then again after 4. Because the men were dropping. Big men, he says. Good men. Just folding up quiet next to the cotton bales. And the wagons short-handed besides. Because the horses cannot stand the noon sun any better than the men. He tells it level. No drama in it. A working man reporting the conditions of his trade. And that levelness is worth more than any newspaper. This afternoon, he says, they hosed the team horses down where they stood in the traces. And the water came off them warm as tea. And there was one moment near 6, when he was flat certain he could not lift another sack. And then the gull came. Ah, Seagul, he says, and a little life comes into his voice. Big gray one sat itself down on the arm of the crane, bold as a foreman, and rode it around for half an hour. From her place by the baby's basket, Mrs. Brennan smiles for the first time tonight. And what of it? She says, knowing the answer, drawing it out of him for the pleasure of the room. Gulls come into the city when there is weather making out past the harbor, he says. Wind coming, somewhere behind the heat. Old Kessler upstairs has been saying it 2 days now. Says he can smell it. He pulls off one boot, then stops, remembering they are going up, and laughs at himself. One tired note. Maybe the bird knows something. Maybe the bird is just a bird. But I will tell you this for nothing. That is the first gull I have seen on that crane all summer. The baby sighs in the basket. Tommy, on his pallet, has given up performing sleep and is openly listening, chin on his fists. And you sit in the dark, doing your own arithmetic, the kind a newcomer does. You have been in this city one day. You have no way of knowing what is ordinary here and what is not. But you know how a farmhouse feels when the animals go strange before a storm. And you know the sound of a man who has hold of a hope and is being careful with it. And you are starting to understand that this whole building, this whole street, maybe this whole scalded city, is lying awake tonight, holding the same small thing, a bird on a crane, an old man's nose, a 10th day that has to break sometime. Mrs. Brennan stands and claps the dust off her skirts, soft, so as not to wake the baby before she has to move her. Well, she says, the roof will not wait all night, and the room begins, quietly, in the dark, to rise. Here is a thing nobody tells you about hard times until you are inside one. After enough nights, survival stops looking like an emergency and starts looking like housekeeping. That is what you are watching now, in the gray light of the back room. And it is worth watching closely, because what the Brennan family does in the next 15 minutes has been polished by 9 nights of practice until there is not one wasted motion left in it. The bedding comes first. 2 blankets, already rolled, have been standing on end behind the door since afternoon, tied with string, each with a pillow lashed to the top like a head on a bedroll. And you realize that at some point today, while her husband hauled cotton and her son hauled water, Mrs. Brennan packed this camp. She hands one roll to Tommy, who takes it the way boys take official duties, gravely, both arms around it, chin hooked over the top. Then the basket. This is the piece you will remember. She goes to the water bucket and pulls out a bed sheet that has been soaking in it, folded small. Since supper, she wrings it, but only halfway, so it stays heavy and cool. And then she wraps it clear around the outside of the baby's wicker basket, tucking the ends under, until the whole thing is swaddled in wet cotton with the baby dry inside it. You must look as puzzled as you feel, because Mr. Brennan takes pity on you. Feel the side of it, he says. You put your fingers against the wrapped wicker. Cool. Distinctly. Impossibly cool. 5 degrees below anything else in this room. Like the basket has been sitting in a spring house. Water dries. It takes the heat with it, he says. Same reason a man sweats. Same reason you feel cold coming out of a lake with the sun full on you. She keeps that sheet damp, and the little one rides cool as an egg in a cellar. He says it plain. No wonder in his voice. And that is when you understand that this is not a trick to these people. This is the physics of staying alive. Learned kitchen by kitchen, handed woman to woman down these stairs. And none of them have ever needed a scientist to spell it for them. The wet sheet is the poor family's icebox. And tonight, the baby is the only thing in this building precious enough to go inside it. Mrs. Brennan does one more thing before they douse the room's last stub of candle. She takes the baby's milk bottle, the glass one with the rubber top that cost more than she will ever say, and stands it up to its neck in the water basin by the window, and weights a plate over the top of the basin against the flies. Milk turns faster than anything in this weather, she says. Seeing you watch. Faster than meat. Faster than fish. A bottle of milk in a room like this is good for 2 hours. Maybe 3. And then, she does not finish it. In this city, in this month, no mother finishes that sentence out loud. The papers this week are full of the arithmetic she is not saying. The summer complaint sweeping the tenement districts. The infants who cannot keep anything down once the milk goes wrong. And every mother on this street is fighting that war with a water basin and a plate and her own vigilance. Hour by hour. And mostly, winning. The last piece of the ritual belongs to Tommy, and he has clearly been waiting for it. From its nail by the door he lifts down a small tin lantern, the kind with a candle stub inside and punched holes that throw stars on the walls. And he does not light it. He hangs it on his belt, dark, with the solemnity of a watchman taking up his post. We carry it for coming down at night. Mr. Brennan says, if the baby needs the room, or somebody takes a bad turn, but it goes up cold, and it stays cold unless it is needed. He nods toward the ceiling, toward the floors above, toward one floor in particular, Mrs. Russo's rule. That one, 3rd floor. She has seen more of these summers than the rest of us put together. And she says, oil is the one thing on this street nobody runs short of. But a flame in your hand heats you twice. Once from the burning and once from the carrying. So we climb dark. Your eyes come around to it quicker than you would think. And then there is nothing left to do. The room is squared away like a ship's cabin. The milk is shunk. The baby is wrapped in her cool white walls. The bedrolls are shouldered. And the 6 of you stand for one moment in the dark you are about to leave. And it strikes you, absurdly, that you have lived here less than a day, and the leaving already has a feeling to it. Mr. Brennan lifts the wrapped basket by both handles. Careful, level, the way stevedores carry the crate marked fragile. Mrs. Brennan turns the key in the door out of pure habit. The lock guarding an empty oven of a room. And old Schmidt the lodger falls in behind, with his blanket over his shoulder like a soldier of some defeated army. And Tommy leads off down the hall with his dark lantern bumping his hip. At the end of the hall, where you would swear the building simply ended, There is a door you took for a closet this afternoon. Tommy hauls it open, proud as a doorman at a grand hotel. And behind it, going up, iron and shadow and a breath of different air, is the ladder to the roof. But you do not go straight up. The building has other plans for you, and they start with Tommy tugging your sleeve in the dark of the hallway. Ma says we are to go down for Mrs. Russo. He says she has her chair to carry, and her knees are wicked on the stairs. So while the Brennans climb toward the sky, you and a 9-year-old boy go down into the body of the building, and this errand, which will cost you 10 minutes and 2 flights, is going to introduce you to the whole world you have moved into. Because a tenement stairwell on a heatwave night is not a passage. It is a street stood up on its end. Every door on every landing stands open. That is the first thing. Doors that would be locked and bolted any other week of the year are flung wide for whatever whisper of draft the stairwell might carry. And so you descend past the open mouths of other lives, each one lit dim, or not at all, each one breathing its own sounds and smells out into the common dark. It is like walking down through the inside of an honest man's mind. Nothing hidden, everything murmuring. On the 3rd floor landing, a rectangle of deeper shadow resolves into an old woman standing in her doorway, dressed for the roof. Gray hair, braided down tight, a wooden stool in one hand and something else in the other. And even in the dark she has the stillness of somebody. It would be a mistake to hurry. Mrs. Russo, Tommy says, we have come for your chair. For my chair, she says. Her voice is dry and level, with an accent that has kept all its music. Naples underneath it somewhere, decades deep. And who is this? The new boarder at Brennan's, Tommy says. Off the train yesterday. He touched the wall when he came in. Tommy adds, as if reporting a promising sign in a horse. Everyone touches the wall the first night. Mrs. Russo says. She hands Tommy the stool and keeps the other thing. And as she turns to pull her door shut, you see what it is, held against her apron. Small and glass and stoppered. A bottle of vinegar. You look at it a half-second too long, and she sees you look, the way she sees everything. And she offers nothing at all, just tucks it into her apron pocket and takes the banister in her freed hand. Some people you may ask questions of. Some people will answer them when the answering is useful, and never 1 minute before. 26 summers she has spent inside these walls. Tommy tells you later, in the tone of a boy reciting the age of a mountain. Tonight the vinegar rides up to the roof with her, unexplained, and you add it to the night's small ledger of mysteries. The gull on the crane, the wind that an old man upstairs can supposedly smell. And now this, an old woman carrying sour wine to bed like a lady's evening bag. The climb back up is slow, her hand on the rail, her breath measured out in careful spoonfuls. And you learn the pace of the building, which is her pace. Doors murmur past. On 4, the landing smells of somebody's onions gone cold. On 5, at the head of the stairs, a figure is waiting in the dark by the roof ladder. And this one, you know before Tommy says a word, because Mr. Brennan told you a man on the top floor could smell the weather. And here is a nose in the dark, lifted, actually lifted, like a hound's at a window. Old Kessler is past 60 and built like the stump of something that was once very large. He worked ice. Tommy has told you already. On the pond, cruise upstate, and then the wagons down here. 30 winters of it. And his handshake, when you introduce yourself in the dark, is like putting your hand between two hearthstones. So, Kessler says, the country boy. He says it kindly enough. Then, to all of you, in a voice pitched low, but meant to carry to the whole landing. He says the thing he has plainly been standing here to say. Do not spread your blankets in the old spot tonight. He lets that sit a beat. East side of the chimney stack. All of you, up against the north parapet, if there is room. Leave the west side of the roof empty for once. From below, on the stairs, Mrs. Russo makes a sound that is almost a laugh. And why would we be doing that? She says, in the voice of a woman who has heard many men announce many weathers. Because the wind is coming back tonight, Kessler says, off the northwest. Late. After 3 would be my guess. And when she comes, I intend to be lying where she will find me first. He turns his head toward the black rectangle of the ladder hole and the strip of sky in it. And there is something in the set of his shoulders that is not boasting. That is a workman making a call in his own trade. Smelled it on the river this morning. Sweet water and cold stone. Way off. The gulls have been coming in all day. 9th night, I have said soon, he says. But tonight, I am not saying soon. I am saying tonight. Nobody speaks. Somewhere down the stairwell a baby fusses and is hushed. And what you notice, standing there, is what the silence is made of. It would be the easiest thing in the world to laugh at him. An old man promising wind after 9 promises of soon, and not one soul on this landing is laughing. They are all doing the same quiet arithmetic. He was 30 winters with ice, and icemen live by knowing what the air will do tomorrow. And every family on this staircase wants him to be right so badly that they will pay him the only coin the roof has to offer, which is to sleep on the east side of the chimney, on his word alone. Mrs. Russo reaches the landing, sets her hand a moment on Kessler's forearm. 2 old survivors settling something without words, and nods at the ladder. Well then, she says, let us go up and meet it. Tommy goes first with the stool and the dark lantern. Then the old woman, slow and certain. Then you, with your blanket over your shoulder. Up iron rungs, still faintly warm from the day, through a square hole in the roof of the world. And the sky opens over you like a hand letting go. For one full breath, you just stand there on the tar, holding your blanket, forgetting to move out of the way of the people climbing up behind you. You came up expecting a roof. What you have walked into is a village. 30 people, maybe more, are camped across the top of this building. Families have staked out their ground the way families always do. Blanket edges for fences. A chalk line here. A row of shoes there marking a border everyone respects. Children lie in rows like cordwood, already asleep. Arms flung wide, in that surrender, babies and drunks share. Two clotheslines cross the roof at head height, strung from the chimney to the tin cap of the air shaft. And wet towels and wet shirts hang from them, not drying so much as standing guard, because a wet towel swaying over your face is the closest thing this street owns to a breeze made by hand. Somebody's grandmother is asleep, sitting up in a kitchen chair, with her rosary still wound through her fingers. Two men play cards by feel, no light, calling the cards in murmurs. A girl braids her sister's hair in the dark, slow as syrup. Both of them half gone already. And, past the parapet, past the edge of this one building, the sight that stops you. Every roof does this. Every roof, as far as you can see. Across the street, down the block, away, south, toward the bridge. The rooftops of the city are dotted and clustered with the shapes of sleeping people. Pale blankets, white shirt sleeves. Here and there, the small red star of a pipe. Hundreds of buildings wearing their tenants on top like hats. 10,000 people. 50,000. No one will ever count them. All gone up their ladders and their fire escapes to lie down together under the one ceiling in New York that never held the heat of the day. Far off south, strings of lights swoop and hang in the dark, and it takes you a moment to understand you are looking at the great bridge to Brooklyn with the gas lamps lit along her cables. The city you walked through yesterday was all walls. From up here, at night, it is all sky. The Brennans have their ground already, and Kessler was obeyed. You notice, the whole colony has shifted east of the big brick chimney stack. Blankets packed a little closer than anybody would choose. The west side of the roof lying empty in the starlight, like a field left fallow. Trust looks like that. Apparently, bare tar, where 30 tired people would rather be lying, on the word of one old nose. Mrs. Brennan has the baby's basket set down in the corner the chimney makes with the north parapet, the most sheltered pocket on the roof. And when Mrs. Russo arrives at her slow pace, it is Mr. Brennan who unfolds her stool and plants it by the basket without being asked. And the old woman settles onto it the way a queen takes a throne she has sat for 26 years. You find your patch between Tommy's pallet and the clothesline, and you do what everyone does their first time. You spread the blanket, and then you stand there, wondering whether a person sleeps on top of it or underneath it in weather like this. And Tommy watches you flounder with the deep joy of a boy who gets to be the expert. On top of it, he says, but you want the blanket under you thick on account of the tar. Feel it. You crouch and press your palm flat to the roof. And there it is again. The day refusing to die. The tar warm as fresh bread and just barely soft. So your hand comes up smelling of it. Road and rope and summer. The blanket is your wall against that. Tommy explains. The heat comes up through all night, less and less. And along about morning, the tar goes cool at last, and then you will be glad of a blanket you can roll yourself in like a sausage. You stretch out on your back, boots off, hat under your head, inside the crook of your arm, and you look straight up. And there they are, stars, realones, a whole spilled sackful. And you had not expected that. Not over this city of smoke and gaslight. But the truth is, the city burns little at night in a heat wave. Few lamps, few fires, and the sky over Orchard Street tonight is nearly the sky over your father's fields. There is the dipper hanging low, faithful as a dog. The same stars you left 3 days and 100 miles ago, and something in your chest lets out a notch, like a strap loosened. Below you, 4 stories, down through brick and plaster, is the room you are paying for, holding its 95 degrees with nobody in it. An oven proofing bread that never comes. Up here the air is honestly cooler. 5 degrees. Maybe 6. Still warm as a sick room. Still not a whisper of wind in it. But the difference is the difference between being cooked and being merely kept. And every soul on these rooftops can feel it in their skin, which is why they are here. Kessler settles himself last of anyone, up against the east face of the chimney, where the brick will shade him from the low morning sun. And from somewhere in his bedroll he produces his pipe, and does not light it, just sets it between his teeth cold. An old dog of a habit. The whole roof is bedded down now. The murmuring sinks, drops to threads, goes out, and in the quiet you hear the city again, the way you heard the building from your mattress. Only now it is the whole of it, the great, low-breathing hush of the biggest city on the continent, lying on its back in the dark with its doors open, being patient, being patient, being patient. Beside you, a small voice, mostly asleep already. "Mister," Tommy says, "you can see the bridge from your patch. I gave you the patch where you can see the bridge. You tell him it is the finest patch on the roof." He is gone before the sentence ends. Sleep does not come for you yet, and that is all right. First nights in a new bed are for learning the rules of the house. And this house has rules, and nobody will recite them to you. You have to lie still and let them show themselves. Rule 1. You learn from the men. Every so often, one of them rises, quiet as smoke, and walks the roof, not pacing, nothing nervous in it. He makes one slow circuit, looks at this and that, and lies back down. And a while later, a different man does the same. It takes you 3 or 4 of these before you see what they are checking. The line of stools, all along the western and southern edges of the roof. Wherever the parapet runs low, somebody has stood up a row of kitchen stools. Crat, a wash tub, the frame of a broken chair, a picket line of humble furniture, standing sentry between the sleeping children and the drop. It is a fence, a father's fence, built new every evening and struck every morning. And the men of this roof tend it in their turnings, the way a farmer walks his pasture wall. Mrs. Russo sees you looking at it. The old woman is awake on her stool, hands folded, and her voice comes to you low across the little distance, pitched to miss the sleepers. The first summer people slept up here. Nobody thought to build that, she says. That is all she says about it. The sentence closes like a door closing, gently, all the way. Nowadays, she goes on, in the tone of a woman moving to more useful business. The little ones sleep inland. You see how the mothers lay them. Middle of the roof, feet pointing out, A child rolls toward its own feet. Did you know that? You did not know that? Nobody knows how the mothers know it. She says, but watch any roof on this street, and you will see every baby pointed the same way, like little boats tied up facing the current. Rule 2 is territory, and it is stricter than any landlord's lease. A late family comes up the ladder around 11, boarders from the second floor, and you watch them thread the sleeping camp with their bedrolls, and never once does a foot come down inside the border of another family's blanket. Even in the dark, even where the gap is inches, the roof is one big shared bed, and it works because everyone pretends it is 40 small private ones. Rule 3 is silence with exceptions. Whispers are lawful. A crying baby is lawful. Nobody stirs. Nobody sighs. 40 people simply wait it out with a patience that is itself a kind of lullaby, because every one of them has lain there being the parent of that baby some other night. What is not lawful, apparently, is a man 2 roofs south who begins around midnight to sing something sad and Irish to himself, having taken his comfort from a bottle by the sound of it. Heads lift, and it is not anger that answers him across the rooftops. It is shepherding, a low voice from his own roof saying, "Come on now, Michael, lie down." That is the boy. And other voices, neighborly, from other buildings entirely. "Easy now, Michael. Mind the edge. Sit yourself down." And he is talked down to his blanket by the whole neighborhood the way a skittish horse is gentled. Hands all over the reins. And inside 2 minutes, the hush has closed over the street again, like water over a stone. "The drunk men are the danger up here," Mrs. Russo says quietly. Matter of fact, as a woman naming which mushrooms to leave in the woods, heat and whiskey together tell a man lies. That is why the singing gets answered fast. She rewinds her rosary 1 turn. "The sober ones we fence in with stool," she says. "The other kind we fence in with voices. And then there is the last rule, the one that will carry you clear through to morning once you find it. You have been hearing it for an hour without knowing, from over by the chimney. At long, slow intervals comes a small sound. Tuck, talk, unhurried, brief, then nothing for a quarter hour. Then again, you finally turn your head and catch it happening. It is Kessler. The old Iceman is not asleep. He is sitting up against the warm brick with his cold pipe, and every so often he rises without a sound and makes his own slow circuit of the roof, the fence line, the ladder hole. A long look at the sleeping rose, a longer look at the northwest sky, and when he settles back against the chimney, he raps the pipe twice against the brick, knocking out nothing, since it is not lit. Knocking for the sake of the knock. It takes you a while to understand what the sound is for. And then it arrives all at once, and something in your chest goes loose and warm. It is for everyone. It is the watchman calling the hour without calling it. Half the sleepers on this roof would not wake for a wagon crash. But the mothers, you notice, the mothers half wake at every strange sound all night long. A rustle, a too long silence from a basket. And each time, 2 beats later, comes that little talk, Talk off the chimney brick, and you can all but hear the mothers thinking, Kessler is up. Kessler is watching, and going under again. The old man has made himself into a clock that only says one thing. All is well. All is well. You lie back into your own blanket, on your patch, with the view of the bridge, under the whole slow wheel of the stars. The tar under you has given up another degree. The wet towel on the line above you stirs once, barely, and hangs still. And you are too new here to know if that was a promise or an accident. Somewhere below, a horse. Somewhere east. The river? 2 feet away. A boy breathing slow. Talk. Talk. All is well. Midnight comes to Orchard Street, and no bell has to tell you. The street tells you itself, if you have somebody to teach you its language. And you have Kessler. You are not asleep. You are in that shallow, warm water just short of it. Eyes closed, ears wide open, and the old man has taken his seat against the chimney after another circuit. And he must know you are awake, the way he knows things, because his voice comes over to you low as a coal settling in a grate. Listen to that, he says. You listen. Down in the canyon of the street, 4 stories below the parapet, something is passing. Hooves, but wrong somehow, and it takes you a second to name what is missing. The ring, all your life, a shod horse on a hard road, has meant a bright iron clop, and this is softer. Tula, a horse walking on cushions. Straw, Kessler says. They have strawed the street over on Delancey where the sick horses stable, and this fellow is dragging his feet besides. Hear him. Short steps. Low head. You can hear a horse's head in his feet. Did you know that? A horse stepping long and ringing sharp is a horse with his chin up. That one there has been leaning into a collar since 5 this morning, and his driver has the sense to let him walk home slow. He knocks his pipe once, soft, on the brick, a thought finishing itself. Whole city is walking like that horse tonight, he says. Short steps, saving what is left. The streetcar comes next, the last one. The owl car, they call it, and you hear it 4 blocks before it reaches you. Iron wheels on iron rails. A long, low grind like a knife on a distant stone. Rising, passing somewhere west of you with a rattle of harness and one tired human cough from the platform. Sinking away north. The horses that pull it will be unhitched inside the hour, Kessler says. Hosed down in the car barn. And the barns this week keep a man up all night just to walk the stalls with a bucket, wetting the animals down while they sleep on their feet. When the horses start dying in the streets, he says, and this week they have hundreds of them, the papers keeping count the way papers do. The city does not just lose horses. It loses milk before breakfast and coal before winter and every wagon load of everything, because a horse is not an animal in New York. It is the engine of the whole machine, and everybody from the mayor down to that driver there knows it. So the city has quietly turned itself inside out. Work at dawn, work at dusk, rest at noon. Man and beast, both. The clock has surrendered to the thermometer. Water sounds thread up from below. Somewhere A super or a beat cop has cracked a hydrant to a thin silver leak. Unofficial, merciful, and you can hear it running in the gutter, and the small scrape of a tin cup. Some child sent down, or some old man unable to sleep, taking a drink at the fountain of the city's mercy at midnight. Farther off, a piano, 3 notes. 4. Somebody in the back room of a closed beer hall on Rivington, fingering a tune too slow to dance to, the kind of playing a man does for the empty chairs. And it floats over the rooftops mixed with the smell of the river. And then, far south, faint as a memory, you hear the sound Kessler has been waiting for you to notice. A bell, small, bright, swinging with the gait of a big horse, coming and going on the dead air, blocks and blocks away. Ice wagon, Kessler says, and there is 30 winters of ownership in the way he says it. Running at night now, the smart ones. Sun costs an iceman a third of his load. So this week they load at 11 and cart till dawn. He listens, head tipped, reading the far-off, bell-like print. That one is heavy yet. Hear the pace of him. Downtown route, hotels, and the fish market, and the morgue, he says, plain as naming groceries. And then lets the wagon carry itself away south, out of everyone's hearing. The bell fades under the hush. You will hear it again before this night is over. That same silver sound, and it will be nearer. And it will matter more than you can know right now. But that is a later chapter of the dark. And nothing in this hour is in a hurry. Kessler packs himself back against his warm brick. Sleep a little. Country boy, he says. The street will keep talking, whether you listen or not. That is the beauty of her. Somewhere past 1 in the morning, the baby wakes. And this time the small, dry complaint does not settle. It is not a sick cry. You know that much even from 10 feet away, even being nobody's father yet. A sick child sounds like fear, and this sounds like protest. Hot, fed up, rubbing its own ears with its fists. The cry of a body 5 months old that has been asked to do a grown stevedore's work of enduring for 10 days running. But on a roof of 40 sleepers, a crying baby is everyone's clock, and you can feel the camp surface an inch all around. Mothers half rising on elbows, and Mrs. Brennan is already up on her knees over the basket with the wrung rag. Wrists, neck, the practiced circuit. And tonight, the practiced circuit is not enough. Then the stool creaks, and Mrs. Russo descends into the situation like weather. She says something first in Italian to the baby, not the mother. 2 or 3 words. The tone of a foreman arriving at a stall job. Then, to Mrs. Brennan, in English, bring her out of the basket. And the vinegar bottle comes out of the apron pocket at last. You are up on one elbow watching, because everyone awake is watching. This is the theater of the roof tonight. And what you see is this. Into her own cupped palm, the old woman pours a little vinegar, cuts it with water from the pail, wets a cloth in the mix, and wrings it near dry. Then she takes one small flailing arm and lays the cloth along the inside of the wrist, holds it, unhurried, while the baby roars at her and moves it wrist to wrist. Then, behind the neck, where the curls are soaked flat. Then, the soles of both feet, one and the other. Each place, a few seconds only. And while she works, she keeps up a low run of Neapolitan, half song, half argument, the sound of a woman who has out-talked infants for 50 years. The smell reaches you where you lie, sharp and clean over the tar and the sleeping bodies, kitchen and sickroom both. And strange to say, it smells like competence, like something being done. And the crying comes down. Not all at once. It steps down, the way a kettle steps down when you slide it off the fire. Roar to cry. Cry to complaint. Complaint to hiccup. And somewhere in there, it stops being a sound of suffering and becomes a sound of a baby remembering it is tired. 10 minutes. No more. And the child is taking the bottle that has been standing cool in the water basin, taking it in that greedy, desperate way that makes both women laugh low in their chests. And the roof around you exhales and sinks back down into itself. Vinegar dries faster than water, Mrs. Russo says. She says it to Mrs. Brennan. But it is pitched for you, too, for anyone new enough to be wondering. The lesson given away free, now that the work is done, dries faster, cools harder. My mother did it in Naples, on the roof. Same as this, she says. Whole city of roofs. That one, too. Different harbor. Same August. She stoppers the little bottle and puts it away in the apron. Wrists. Neck. Feet. She says. The blood runs close to the skin in those places. You cool the blood there, and the blood carries it everywhere else. Like putting the ice in the cellar and letting the cellar cool the house. Mrs. Brennan settles the baby back into the wicker and re-wets the sheet around the basket. And for a little while, the two women stay crouched there head to head over the child, murmuring the accounting. All mothers murmur how much she took, how she feels at the back of the neck now. And it is a small thing to watch, and it is not small at all. Napoli and Galway, kneeling on one blanket over one basket, 4 stories above America. Mrs. Russo starts back for her stool and pauses and looks down at the sleeping child one more moment. The vinegar does not save everyone, she says, quiet, level, to nobody in particular, to 26 summers of this roof, but it saves more than people think. Then the stopper of that sentence goes in too, and she sits and winds her hands back into her rosary and is still. Nobody asks her anything. On this street, you do not ask. The building keeps its ledgers behind its doors, and everybody on this roof knows a line or two out of somebody's ledger. And the kindness of the place is that the lines stay closed inside the books unless their owner takes one out and shows it, the way she just showed you hers. 1 sentence long, and put it away again. The baby sleeps. The camp breathes. Some roofs south, faint. A church bell counts 2, and the sound comes to you the long way round, over the rooftops, soft at the edges, like everything in this hour. You turn on your side, and your cheek finds a cool patch of blanket, the first cool patch of the night, and you are nearly under when it registers, dim and far back. What a cool patch of blanket might be. The first small proof of the tar has quit fighting. The night has finally gotten a hand on the day. Talk, talk, says the chimney. All is well. And this time you do not hear the end of it. Sleep takes you for a while, an hour, maybe more, and then hands you back. That is how roof sleep goes. You are learning. It comes in installments, and between the installments you surface. Check the world, the way a swimmer checks the shore, and go under again. Only this time, surfacing, you find you are not the only one awake. Mr. Brennan is sitting up on his blanket with his forearms on his knees, looking at nothing, in the particular way of a man whose body is too tired to sleep. You have seen your own father sit like that in July, after haying. Some tiredness is too big to fit through the narrow door of sleep, and has to stand outside a while first. He hears you turn, and glances over, and neither of you says anything for a minute, because the roof's law of silence holds even for the sleepless. When he does speak, it is barely a breath, aimed at you alone. You get used to it, he says. The broken sleep. First week I fought it. Now I take it the way it comes. A piece here, a piece there. A man can live on pieces. And then, because it is 2 a.m, and you are both awake, and there is a whole city lying quiet around the conversation. He talks, low, unhurried, with long pauses that neither of you feels a need to fill. He talks the way men talk across a fence at dusk, and what he gives you, without ever once calling it anything, is the other half of his day. The half a wife does not get told at supper. The docks this week, he says, are a different country. The heat comes off the cotton bales like off a stove lid, and the hold of a ship is worse. The hold of a ship is a place he would not send a man he hated. So the boss, who is not a soft man, has gone soft in the one way that counts. Dawn muster now, work the cool, such as it is, from 5 till 11, then everything stops. Whole waterfront stopped, big ships riding at their lines, cranes standing still against the sky, and the men lying like dead soldiers in every scrap of shade from the pier sheds to the pilings, hats over faces. Nobody talking. 3 hours of that. Then at 4, the whistle goes, and you work again till dark. And the strange thing, he says, is how the waterfront has stopped being ashamed of it. First day of the noon stop. Men slunk into the shade like it was a sin. Now the boss himself hauls a crate into the shadow of the shed and sleeps on it like a lord. And nobody says a word, because the arithmetic came out the same for every gang on the river. You can work a man through noon this week, or you can work him tomorrow. Not both. He tells you about the barrel. This is the part you will carry. And he tells it plain. No flourish on it anywhere. End of the first bad day, he says. A man on his gang folded up. Big Swede, strong as a winch, just sat down slow between 2 bales and could not get up. And his face had gone the wrong color, gray as putty, and he had quit sweating, which you might think was a mercy, and the old dockmen will tell you it is the opposite of a mercy. It is the body giving up the fight. They carried him into the shade and stripped him to the waist and soaked him with river water. Hats for buckets. And the old foreman, 60 years on that waterfront, knelt over him and fed him salted water off a spoon. Not fresh, salted, pinch of salt to the quart. The foreman's own receipt. Sweat is salty. Son, the old man said, working the spoon. A body sweating all day is losing salt all day. And you pour plain water into a man who has sweated himself empty, and it runs through him like rain through sand. Give the salt back, and the water holds. The Swede walked home on his own legs. Brennan says, slow, but his own legs. And there has been a barrel of weak salt water standing at the head of the pier ever since, with a dipper on a string. And every man on the gang takes his turn at it, whether he fancies it or not, because the foreman stands by it at the breaks like a priest by the font. He is quiet a while after that. The city breathes. Somewhere below, the hydrant's silver leak still runs its thread of sound along the gutter. Then he tells you the last thing, the thing he has plainly been turning over all evening. The way you turn a strange coin. The tugboats, he says, all week their smoke has stood straight up off the stacks. Dead straight. Like poles. Like the smoke in a child's drawing. A waterfront man notices smoke the way a farmer notices clouds. There is weather written in it. 9 days of smoke standing at attention. Not a lean in it anywhere. This evening, 6 o'clock, he was waiting on the last sling load with nothing to do but look at the harbor, and the smoke off a tug coming up past the battery was leaning, not much, but leaning, all of it expat, the whole soft column of it bent over to the south and east like grass under a hand. Wind aloft, he says, high up. Mind, nothing down here yet. You can see that, and he tips his chin at the towel hanging dead still on the line above you both. But something is moving up top, coming round out of the northwest, and the smoke felt it before any flag did. He lies back down on his blanket, folds his hands on his chest, and his voice comes out of the dark one more time, already half asleep, wearing the smallest smile you have heard in it tonight. First, the gull, he says, then old Kessler's nose. Now the smoke, 3 witnesses. Son, any judge in this city would call that proof. The knock, when it comes, is not on any door. It is on the ladder. Sometime past 2. A sound climbs up through the open hatch of the roof. Tap, tap, tap. Iron on iron. Polite as a bell, but carrying, and you sit up in time to see the top of a helmet rise out of the hatchway. A policeman, hauling himself up the last rungs with a grunt, standing there on the tar, getting his breath among 40 sleeping citizens, like a walrus, surfacing in the middle of a beach full of seals. Officer O'Mara walks this beat. You will learn. And the roofs are part of the beat this week. He is broad and going gray, and he is sweated through his tunic like every other man in New York. And he does not bellow. He crouches by the nearest waking heads, Kessler's and Brennan's among them, and delivers his news in the voice of a man passing word down a pew. Station house on Delancey Street. he says. They are cutting ice tonight. Free ice. Courtesy of the department and the commissioner's own arranging. £10 to a family. First come, first serve. And there is a wagon load of it, standing in the yard this minute. He wipes his neck with a handkerchief the size of a flag. Word is going roof to roof, he says. If you have anybody with the legs for it, send 'em along before the whole ward is standing in that line. And the roof, which 2 minutes ago was a field of sleepers, is suddenly a town meeting held flat on its back in whispers, because ice, free ice, £10 of it, lands on this company like news of rain on a parched county. Mrs. Brennan is up on an elbow, and you can all but see the ledger open behind her eyes. The milk bottle standing in its tepid basin, the hours till morning, the baby. Across the way somebody's grandmother needs it for her niece, swollen tight as bread loaves with the heat. And the old fellow with the patient cough 2 floors down. His daughter is sitting up now too, doing her own sums. £10 to a family? Somebody has to go and stand for it. Tommy is awake? Of course. Tommy has been awake since the helmet cleared the hatch, and he is already reaching for his boots with his whole face making the argument. And his mother is already shaking her head with her whole face making the other one. A boy of 9, across the ward and back at this hour, through streets full of sleepless strangers. And you hear yourself say it before you have finished deciding. I will go. Every head within whisper range turns, and you say the rest of it plainly, because it is plainly true. You are the newest thing on this roof. You have eaten this family's bread and slept on their floor and been taught all evening by every soul up here how to live through a night you did not know how to live through. You have 2 good legs off a farm and no day of work tomorrow. The foreman's letter says Monday. Let the men who load cotton at dawn keep their sleep. This is the border's errand, if ever an errand was. Mr. Brennan looks at you one long second, the look of a man rechecking a knot, and then nods once. And it is settled the way things get settled up here. No speech about it. Take the boy, Mrs. Russo says from her stool. Unexpected. Not to carry. To steer. She turns her head toward you in the starlight. You have been in this city one day. Country boy. He has been in it 9 years. On Delancey Street at this hour. 9 years. Beats a strong back. Tommy is into his boots before his mother can rule. And his mother, weighing an escort against a worry, rules with a sigh and a raised finger, and 3 conditions delivered in the whisper mothers can make binding as law. Hold to the lit streets, both hands for the ice, no side errands, and back before 4. Then Kessler is standing over you, and the old iceman has been busy while the debate ran. From behind the chimney, he has fetched out a burlap sack, folded soft with age, and a coil of light rope, and he presses them on you like a quartermaster issuing kit. Ice, bare in your arms, is half water by the time you climb these stairs. He says, ice in burlap keeps. The sacking holds the cold in, and the melt soaks the cloth, and the wet cloth guards the block. Same trick as the baby's basket, he says. And Mrs. Brennan laughs low. One note. at hearing her nursery physics come back out of the ice trade. Sling it over your shoulder like a sailor. Kessler says, rope round twice, and walk steady. Do not run. Running men and ice part company at the first curb. He walks you both to the hatch, and pauses. And the last thing he gives you is not equipment. You will see the wagons loading if you look down Delancey toward the river. He says, take the boy a minute and look. A man should see where his ice comes from once in his life. There is more winter standing in this city tonight than anybody believes. Then the square hole in the roof swallows you. Iron rungs warm under your hands. Tommy's boots ringing below you. Down past the sleeping floors. Past the open doors, breathing their heat into the stairwell. Down and out through the entry hall, where one gas jet burns low and blue. The stoop, the street, 2 a.m, the last night of the great heat. And Orchard Street lies before you in the gaslight, with people asleep on its stoops, like statues laid down off their pedestals. And far off south, small and silver, you can hear it already, a bell, swinging with the gait of a big horse. Come on, mister, Tommy says, taking your sleeve. 9 years old and captain of the expedition, proud enough to burst. I know the cool side of every block from here to the station house. 4 blocks. That is the whole journey. Orchard down to Delancey and west away. And on any ordinary night, a man would walk it in 8 minutes and remember none of it. Tonight, it will take you 20. Because Tommy navigates by a map no city surveyor ever drew. And because New York, at 2 a.m. in a heat wave, is a sight a person is owed the time to look at, the street belongs to sleepers. That is the first thing. Every stoop you pass has its residents. Men stretched on the stone steps with their hats for pillows. Whole families bedded on hauled-out mattresses in the areaways. An old man, asleep, sitting up in a parlor chair that somebody carried down to the sidewalk for him. Planted there, in the open air, like the parlor had simply dissolved around him and left the chair standing. Nobody minds being seen. The heat has repealed the walls this week. Indoors and outdoors have traded places, and the whole ward is one open bedroom with a gas lamp burning low at every corner. And you walk through it quiet and respectful, the way you would cross a room where your family lay sleeping. Tommy steers. He was not boasting. The boy actually does know the cool side of every block, and the knowledge is 9 summers deep and utterly serious. Cross here, mister. This side now. There's a tree on Allen worth 10 degrees, he says. And there is one dusty ailanthus leaning out of a courtyard, and passing under it is like passing a cellar door. One breath of green, cool, and gone. He knows which awnings hold the day's heat under them, and walks around it. He knows the bakery on the corner is firing its ovens for the morning bread, and pilots you across the street early, out of the oven's breath. With the smug economy of a harbor pilot skirting a shoal he has known all his life. At the corner of Allen and Delancey, you come on the hydrant. It has been cracked open a thumb's width, official or otherwise, and it runs a thin, bright rope of water into the gutter, and the gutter runs it away down the block. And along that little rill, spaced out like herons on a stream bank, people are taking their comfort. A woman fills 2 pails. A man sits on the curb with his bare feet in the current and his eyes shut. 3 children who should be asleep are lying belly down on the cool, wet stone with their chins on their stacked hands. Not playing, just being wet. And a beat cop stands over the whole scene with his thumbs in his belt, contemplating the running water like a man at a trout stream. And the law tonight is what he is not saying. Tommy pulls your sleeve at the mouth of a mews halfway down the block. Look, he says. Horses. The stable doors stand open to the night. Both leaves. And the horses have been brought out of their stalls to stand in the alley where the air moves, or would move, if it would. 6 big cart horses, still as monuments, hips shot, heads low, sleeping on their feet in the blue dark. And among them a nightman moves with a bucket and a sponge, wetting each broad back down in turn, unhurried, around and around the little herd all night long. Off the tail of the nearest horse hangs a burlap strip, soaked, and the nightman swaps it wet for dry as he passes the horse's own cool sheet. And you think of the baby's basket and nearly laugh. The whole city is one nursery tonight, and everything in it is being kept alive the same 3 ways. Water, cloth, and somebody staying awake. The nightman raises the sponge to Tommy as you pass. Evidently an acquaintance. Tommy raises 2 fingers back, gravely. One working man to another. Then you turn the corner onto Delancey proper, and the boy stops dead, and does what Kessler told you to do. He looks toward the river, down at the far end of the street, blocks off, under a string of dock lanterns. The night is full of wagons, big drays, drawn up in a rank at the ice company's platform. And even at this distance you can see the crews swinging the blocks aboard. Tiny, dark figures under the lights, and the loads on the nearest wagons shine. That is the fact your eye keeps circling. Past 2 in the morning, in the hottest August anyone alive can remember. And down there, under the lanterns, stacked in straw, glittering like a quarry of glass, is winter. Tons of it, whole frozen ponds of it, cut into squares. There is more winter standing in this city tonight than anybody believes. The old man's sentence, delivered on the roof. And here is the proof of it shining down the street. And Tommy looks his minute, silent, filing it away in whatever vault boys keep such sights. Then, from the block ahead, you both hear it. Not the far silver bell this time. Voices. A low crowd murmur. Hundreds strong. And the ring of something iron on stone. The line, Tommy says. Come on, mister. The ice will not wait for us. The yard behind the Delancey Street station house is lit with lanterns hung along a wire, and under the lanterns is a sight you will be telling people about when Tommy is an old man. A wagon stands in the middle of the yard, heaped with ice under wet canvas, and beside the wagon, 2 policemen in their shirt sleeves are sawing. They have a block up on a plank trestle, a great blue-green cake of it, the size of a steamer trunk. And they are working a long crosscut, saw through it, the way farmers work through oak. 1 man to each handle. Easy strokes. and the saw sings a note you have never heard a saw sing. Higher and cleaner than wood, and off the cut pours a steady spill of white dust that heaps up on the cobbles beneath the trestle. Snow, there is no other word a person could reach for. Ice dust, meltings, sawings, lying in a drift under the trestle in the middle of August. And the children of the neighborhood, dozens of them, up hours past any bedtime that still has meaning, are pressed in a ring around it as close as the sergeant will allow. And every so often a child darts in. Official tolerance having been silently granted, and comes away with 2 fists of the cold white powder and eats it, or crams it down a brother's collar, and the yard rings low with the kind of laughing people do at 2 in the morning, hushed and helpless. And the line, it stretches from the wagon out the yard gate and down the block, and it is the whole ward standing in it, women in shawls over nightclothes, old men holding basins, a girl no bigger than Tommy with a stew pot. Half of them have brought something to carry the ice in, and the other half have brought whatever was nearest the door, a washtub, a pillow slip, a baby carriage with no baby in it, standing in line to be freighted with 10 pounds of January. The line shuffles, patient, half asleep on its feet, and everyone whispers. The whole yard whispers, out of respect for the hour or the marvel. Hard to say which. You and Tommy take your place at the tail of it, and the burlap sack rides folded on your shoulder. And while you shuffle forward, the boy gives you the intelligence of the yard, gathered in whispers from the line ahead. They have been at it since midnight. He says, 100 tons the department bought, or begged, or shamed out of the ice companies. That part is told 6 different ways, and station houses all over the east side are cutting and handing it out tonight. 10 pounds to a family, and it is the commissioner's own doing, the one from the papers. Tommy says, the one with the teeth and the spectacles. You are 3 families from the head of the line when the boy grips your arm. There, he breathes. That is him. That is the commissioner. A man is standing by the tail of the wagon with his sleeves rolled, and you would have marked him without the boy's whisper, because he is the one thing in the yard not drooping. Everything about him is squared off, the spectacles flashing lantern light, the mustache, the chest, a voice that carries across the yard, even in an undertone, and he is not presiding. That is the thing. He has a manner as if standing still were a punishment. He hauls the gate of the wagon. He checks the scale. He bends to hear a woman's question and answers it with his whole body. And when an old grandmother turns from the head of the line with her 10 pounds wrapped in a shawl and no strength left over to be carrying it, he takes it off her and walks it out the gate himself, and sets it in her grandson's barrow, and is back at the wagon before the line has moved twice. The sergeant on the scale sees you watching and speaks without stopping his work. The flat pride of a man reporting on his own regiment. 3rd night running he has come down here. The sergeant says, could be home in his bed. Instead, he is here weighing ice for washerwomen. And yesterday morning, they say, he was up at dawn, walking the tenement roofs himself to see how the people slept. He swings a block off the scale and thumps it into a waiting pillow slip. Whatever else they print about him, the sergeant says. And they print plenty. You saw what you saw. And then it is your turn. And history steps back, and 10 pounds of ice steps forward, which is the correct order of things at 2:30 in the morning. The block comes off the saw fresh, squared, smoking faintly in the lantern light, and the sergeant weighs it, thumps it true, and slides it into your opened burlap, and the weight of it settles onto your shoulder like a cold hand, the first genuinely cold thing your body has touched in 10 days. It burns through the sacking, ferocious and wonderful. You stand there 1 second longer than you need to, just owning it. Name and street, says a clerk with a ledger, keeping the count. And Tommy gives the Brennan's name and the Orchard Street number, pride swelling every syllable. Family business, conducted by himself. At night, before witnesses. On the way out the gate, you pass close by the commissioner, who is at that moment crouched down, holding a dripping sliver of ice out to a small girl in her nightdress, as if presenting a jewel. And you hear him say to her, in that carrying undertone, entirely serious, "That is the coldest ice in New York, miss. I picked it out personally." The girl closes both hands around it and stares at him. Struck dumb? Bully, says the commissioner. To nobody. To the night in general. And stands. And goes back to the wagon. Then the gate. And the dark street. And the bell of a departing ice wagon somewhere ahead of you. And 4 blocks home to carry the cold to the people sleeping on your roof. Tommy walks beside you with one hand pressed flat against the burlap, the whole way, feeling the winter through the cloth. The walk home is slower, and it is not the weight that slows it. 10 pounds rides easy enough on a farm shoulder. What slows the trip is the cold itself. Because carrying a block of ice through the streets of New York on the 10th night of the great heat turns out to be a public office. You cannot keep it secret. The burlap darkens as the block sweats through it, and the cold comes off the wet, sacking in a little traveling cloud. And every sleeper you pass seems to feel you go by in their dreams. A man on a stoop turns his face after you without waking. 2 women sitting up on a mattress in an ROA watch you pass the way you would watch a lit window cross a dark field. And one of them says, softly, not begging, just naming it, "There goes somebody's morning." And her voice has a smile in it. Tommy has appointed himself quartermaster of the cold. His hand stays flat on the sack, monitoring, and he sets the route home with a new consideration in it. "We will go up, Alan," he says, "under the tree." And he does not say for the ice to rest, but that is the shape of the thought. You can hear it play. And so the 2 of you stand a minute under the dusty ailanthus in its pool of cellar cool, resting a thing that cannot be tired, while the melt ticks off the bottom corner of the sack onto the stone. 1 drop, 2, unhurried, and Tommy watches each drop land with the expression of a banker watching pennies roll off a table. It goes faster if you fret it. You tell him, Kessler's wisdom, 1 hour old, already passing itself along. Walk steady, no running. He nods. All business. And steadies. At the corner of Allen and the hydrant, you find Officer O'Mara again. Or he finds you. He is standing his post by the silver thread of water with his helmet off. And as you come up, he dips his big handkerchief in the run, wrings it, and lays it along the back of his neck, under his collar, with the sigh of a man lowering himself into a bath. He takes in the sack, the boy, the hour, and approves the whole expedition with a tip of his head. Got yours. Then, he says, good. He resettles the helmet over the wet handkerchief and gives the night around you a long professional look. The parked sleepers, the still flags of laundry, the gas flames burning straight up in their glass. And then he says the thing he has plainly been saying all night, at every corner, to everyone. A beat cop's benediction. Line was shorter tonight, he says. Shorter than last night by a third. And last night shorter than the night before. He tucks his thumbs in his belt. Folks feel it coming, is what that is. A body knows when the siege is lifting. Same as a body knows rain. He sniffs the dead air, exactly the way Kessler sniffs it. Two men in one night, reading the same invisible page. My sergeant has it from the weathermen that there is cool air on the move out of Canada. He says, due tomorrow, they say, but my feet say tonight. And my feet have walked this beat 22 years. And the weathermen have never once stood a post in August. He waves you along, and the last you hear of him is the scrape of his boots and one low half-whistled bar of some tune. The first music anybody has made on this street in 10 days. 3 witnesses had it proved, Brennan said. You are up to 5 now. Ago, anose, a leaning column of smoke, a shortening line, and a policeman's feet, and you find you are walking faster after all. Ice or no ice, because the night has begun to feel like the last page of a chapter, and some part of you wants to be home on the roof among your people when it turns. Home, there it is. That word, arriving on its own, uninvited. One day and one night after you first climbed those stairs, you look up as you turn onto Orchard Street, and you can pick it out now from all its brothers. 4th building along, 6 stories of patched brick, with sleepers on the fire, escapes like figures on a shelf. And at the top of it, against the faint gray sky, right where the parapet meets the stars, a small, solid shape that does not move, squared shoulders, the stub of a cold pipe, the watchman on his wall. You could not say why the sight of him lands the way it lands. An old man's silhouette, 4 stories up, but your chest does something warm around it. All night, that shape has been between the sleepers and the dark, and it is there still, and will be there when you climb out of the hatch. And seeing it from the street, you finally understand what you are looking at. Every roof on this block has its sleepers. Yours is the one with the lighthouse. Tommy sees him too. He waited up for the ice. The boy says, he waited up for you. You do not say. And the 2 of you go in off the street, past the low blue gas jet, and begin to climb. Mrs. Brennan meets you 2 rungs below the hatch, which is how you learn that mothers can hear a burlap sack climbing a ladder in their sleep, and the block is handed up through the square of starlight into 6 waiting hands, and goes to the flat top of the parapet corner, which Kessler has already dressed with a folded blanket like a butcher dressing his block. Then the roof gathers. Not all of it. Nothing so loud as a gathering, but the waking heads of it, the mothers and the old ones and the sleepless, drifting in around the parapet corner in their stocking feet. And what happens next is done in whispers and starlight and takes about 10 minutes. And if you live to be 90, you will not watch a better piece of ceremony. Kessler officiates. Of course he does. 30 winters with ice. And out of his bedroll comes a short iron chisel and a wooden mallet no bigger than a darning egg. Tools he has owned. So long the handles have gone the color of him. And he circles the block once in the dim, reading it, the way you have seen him read everything tonight. Every cake has a grain to it, he says, to Tommy, because a boy at his elbow at 3 in the morning is a boy taking instruction, whether anyone names it that or not. Pond ice freezes in layers, and it wants to split along the water it froze from. You do not fight ice, boy. You ask it. He sets the chisel, taps twice. Talk, talk, the exact grammar of his chimney signal, and the block falls open in 2 clean, shining halves, easy as a book. And then the shares go out, and you stand back against the clothesline and watch 10 pounds of January be divided among a ruffle of August. A thick slab for the baby. First, no discussion. Mrs. Brennan slides it into a basin, and the basin goes tight against the wicker basket inside the wet sheet. And within minutes, she swears it, holding her palm to the willow. The whole small room of it has gone cellar cool. A second piece for the milk, the bottle set against it, and the plate over all. And that war, the one no mother on this street finishes sentences about, is won through till morning, decisively, with armor. A wrapped fist of it for the grandmother, 3 blankets over, the one whose knees have swollen like loaves. Her daughter binds it on with a stocking. 1 knee, then the other, 10 minutes aside. And the old woman lies back and addresses the stars directly in Yiddish. And you do not need the language to know a blessing at that range. A piece for the man with the patient cough 2 floors down, carried off by his girl. A piece for Mrs. Russo, who takes it without protest. A woman who knows exactly what is owed to 26 summers, and holds it wrapped against the back of her neck with both hands, eyes shut, still as a monument. And the chips, the spill of bright fragments off the chisel work, go into the drinking pail, and the pail goes around the circle with the dipper, hand to hand, and each waking soul on this roof takes 1 swallow of genuinely cold water, the first in 10 days, and you watch every single face do the same thing when it drinks, the eyes closing, the whole body going quiet around the swallow, 3 seconds of privacy in the middle of the crowd, as if each of them had stepped alone for a moment into some remembered winter. Your own swallow, when the dipper reaches you, tastes like the pond it froze from, stone and sweet water. You understand the old man's nose a little better after it. There is 1 share left over, and a small moment around it. Because Kessler cut the block generous, and the arithmetic has come out with a piece unclaimed. He holds it up, a wrapped pound of it, and looks a question around the circle. The seamstress takes it, the young one from the second floor, Miss Adler, a quiet presence at the edge of the circle all night, with her dark braid and a flat tin box. She carries the way some women carry a purse. She takes the ice, thanks him with a nod, and then walks it straight across the roof and gives it away to the old couple by the south parapet, the tailor and his wife, the two who between them have maybe one good set of lungs. And she is back at the circle before anyone can remark on it. So nobody does. But Mrs. Russo's eyes follow her the whole way there and back. And something passes over the old woman's face that is as close to softness as the face gets. It is Tommy, of course, who asks about the tin box. 9-year-olds are the only honest people awake at this hour. Letters, Miss Adler says. She says it simply. And then, because the circle is warm and the hour is loose and the ice has unlocked something in everybody, she opens the lid a crack, and inside is a stack of envelopes, worn soft as cloth at the corners. From my intended, she says. He is out in Colorado, laying track for the railroad. High up in the mountains. She almost laughs and stops herself and says the rest of it anyway. He writes that the nights up there are so cold in the mountains that the water freezes in the bucket by his bunk, and he sleeps under 2 blankets in August, and complains of it. A ripple goes around the circle. Lo, delighted, disbelieving. I have been reading that letter every night since the heat came, she says. The same page. I know it by heart now. The bucket, the 2 blankets, the frost on the tent nails. She closes the tin. It cools me, she says, plain as Mrs. Russo naming her Vinegar. I lie down and I read about his cold and I feel it. Paper ice. My mother would have called it, and nobody laughs at her. The same way nobody laughed at Kessler on the landing. This roof has spent 10 nights learning exactly how many kinds of true a thing can be. The last of the block, a good third of it. Kessler wraps in the burlap, soaks the sacking with a dipper of water, and slings it from the clothesline by its rope, where it hangs like a plumb bob over a basin set to catch the melt, swaying almost nothing. Ticking, it slow drops down into the tin. For the morning milk, he says, and for whoever needs it before. Sacked and wet, that piece will see the sun rise. He gives the bundle 1 pat, like a man settling a horse, and the circle breaks up around it, drifting back to blankets, and the roof lies back down. You lie back down with it. Above you, the wrapped block turns a slow quarter turn on its rope, silver drop gathering at the low corner, and lets go. Dig into the basin, a long pause. Tick. The night has a new clock now, and it is made of winter, and it is counting down to something. And for the first time in 10 days, nobody on this roof is afraid of what? 3 in the morning is the bottom of the night, and every night has one. In winter, it is the coldest hour. Tonight, it is the stillest. And the stillness is a thing you can hear. The roof sleeps around you. All of it now. Even the mother's gone deep at last, paid down into real sleep by the ice and the cold swallow of water. The city below has finally run out of sound. No streetcar, no piano. Even the hydrant thread has been shut somewhere along the way. And what is left is so quiet that the quiet itself has a grain to it, like held breath. And the air stands on the rooftops without the smallest motion. The whole sky, waiting the way a room waits, between the end of one piece of music and the first note of the next. You are awake in it, and you are not troubled to be. There is a kind of waking you are discovering that does the work of sleep. You lie loose on your blanket with your eyes half open, and the only moving thing in the world is the slow silver drop that gathers at the corner of the burlap bundle overhead. Swells. Let's go. Tick. Into the basin. A long, soft nothing. Tick. Kessler is awake too. You know it before he moves. The way you know things. On this roof now. He comes over quiet and lowers himself down onto the parapet ledge beside your patch. Old joints negotiating the descent one at a time. And for a while the two of you keep the stillness together, which is a thing men can do. It turns out, as companionably as talking. Then, low, with a pipe stem for a pointer, he nods up at the swaying bundle. You know where that came from, he says. Not the wagon. Before the wagon. And you settle in, because you can hear it in his voice. The long story. The one he has been carrying all night, the way Miss Adler carries her tin. And 3 in the morning is the hour such things get taken out. Rockland Lake, he says. Up the Hudson, past the Palisades. A lake lying in the hills above the river like water in a cupped hand. Prettiest water in the state. And I spent 30 winters standing on top of it with a saw. January work, he says. You want the ice a foot thick. 1.25 feet is money. And you wait for it the way a farmer waits on wheat. First the scrapers go out, horse-drawn, clearing the snow off. Because snow is a blanket, and a blanket keeps the cold out of the ice, same as it keeps the cold out of you. And a lake that sleeps warm under snow freezes thin. So you strip the bed. Then the marker comes behind. A horse pulling a cutting gauge, scoring the whole lake into squares like a checkerboard. True as a surveyor. Acres and acres of lines. And then the men. 200 of us some winters. Out on the lake at first light, with the breath standing out of the whole crew like a train yard. He tells it slow, and his hands tell it with him. Small motions in the dark. The long saws, taller than the men who pulled them, walking down the scored lines cut by cut. The bars and the breaking off. Cakes the size of that chimney coming loose with a sound like a door of a great house shutting. Boom. And the open black water of the channel, smoking in the cold, floating the cakes down the channel with pike poles, easy as herding geese, to the runway where the steam hoist took them, dripping, shining, up the long incline into the ice house. And the ice house, he says, that is the part no man believes till he stands in it. Wooden barns the size of churches, and dark, and inside them the winter stacked to the rafters, cake on cake, tier on tier, aisles of it, 100,000 tons under one roof, and every layer bedded in sawdust and salt hay, packed in its own quiet. Walk in there in January, and it is just work. Walk in there in July, he says, and it is a cathedral. Cold breathing off the tears. Dark as a cellar. Sawdust underfoot, soft as a church carpet. And outside the door, the whole hot world humming. And inside, stopped, stacked, waiting. January. Every January I ever cut is standing in a barn somewhere up that river still. The drop gathers overhead, ticks into the basin. He watches it fall as if it were the point of the story. And maybe it is. Come summer, the barges bring it down, he says. Tow of 6, 8 barges riding low. Whole winters afloat on the river in July. And the wagons meet them at the docks. And the bells go out through the streets. And there it hangs. He tips the pipe stem at the bundle. That cake you carried tonight. I would lay money it is Rockland ice. Or Croton. Cut this past January by men I could name. Some of them, 6 months, that cold has been kept, he says. Kept dark, kept bedded, kept against this exact week. He is quiet a moment. Then he says, the thing you will carry down off this roof and keep for good. And he says it the way he says everything. Flat and level and half to himself. An old workman closing his ledger. That is the whole trick of this city. Sonde, there is no magic in her anywhere. Every winter, she puts a little of the cold in the barn, and every summer she lives by eating her winters. 1 wagon load at a time. He knocks the cold pipe once against the ledge. Tuck, and works himself back up onto his feet, and looks off at the northwest sky a long moment, and whatever he reads there sends him back toward his own bedroll at last. 30 winters of him, 10 nights of watching, standing down. Rest now, he says over his shoulder. Hardly a sound at all. Nothing left to wait up for. It is close enough now to meet us on its own. You lie back. The stillness holds the roofs, the river, the whole scalded island. One great held breath. Take, says the winter overhead, into the tin. And somewhere in the counting, you go under. What wakes you is nothing you can name at first. Not a sound. The roof is soundless. The city is soundless. Even the basin under the ice has gone quiet. And later you will understand that the silence itself is part of what woke you. The way a millman wakes when his wheel stops. You lie still with your eyes shut, taking the inventory. The way this night has taught you. The breathing of the sleepers, present, slow, all around. The tar under the blanket, cool at last, honestly cool, giving nothing up. Tommy an arm's length off, dead to the world. All the clocks of the roof accounted for. And then it comes again. The thing that woke you. And it is not a sound at all. It is a feeling on your skin, along your left forearm where it lies outside the blanket. The hairs are moving. You open your eyes. You do not move anything else. Above you, the stars are where you left them, and the clothesline crosses them, black on black. And on the clothesline, the wet towel hangs, and you watch it the way you have learned to watch everything tonight. And as you watch, gently, with no hurry at all, the towel swings, not a flutter, not a trick of your eyes. It leans out an inch, hangs there against all its habit, and settles back, the way a bell nudged by a finger settles, and your heart comes up into your throat so fast you can taste it. You lie absolutely still, the way you would lie if a deer had stepped into the yard, afraid that moving might send it back wherever it came from. And it comes again, longer this time, and this time it comes with proof. The air moves over your face, moves, actual motion, a coolness drawing across your forehead and gone, like the flat of a hand passed over without touching. And behind it, arriving a half-second late, the way thunder arrives behind lightning, the smell. Rain somewhere, not here, not yet, miles off yet. But somewhere north and west of this island, rain is falling through cool air onto hot stone, and the wind is carrying the news of it ahead like a rider. Wet dust, cold rock, sweet water, the smell Kessler swore to on the river this morning. A day ahead of everyone, and you would know it blindfolded in a strange country, because every person alive knows it. The smell of weather breaking across the roof. A shape sits up. It is the old man, of course, straight up out of sleep like a man answering his name, and he does not speak. He stands, joints and all, quicker than you have seen him move all night, and walks to the northwest parapet and stands into it, chin lifted. Exactly the hound at the window Tommy showed you on the 5th floor, landing 100 years ago this evening. The next gust is the real one. It comes up the face of the building and over the parapet with a sound, an actual sound. The first voice the air has had in 10 days. A long, soft rush through the clotheslines and the chimney gaps, and the towels lift all together and swing wide and fall, and the burlap bundle turns on its rope, and all across the roof the sleepers stir without waking, 40 bodies answering it in their sleep. A sigh here, a turning there, an arm pulling a blanket edge closer for the first time since July. Kessler stands in it, with his eyes shut and his face into the wind, and says, quietly, to the weather itself, the way a man greets somebody at a train he has waited on for 10 days. There you are, and far off across the black rooftops, one roof south, then another, then one to the east. You see them in the graying dark, single shapes sitting up slowly among their sleepers, one to a roof, here and there and there. The watchers, the old ones, the sleepless, the whole scattered nation of them rising to the same minute of the same wind. And nobody calls out, and nobody cheers. And that is the wonder of it. The greatest news in New York arrives over the parapets at 3:30 in the morning, and the whole city receives it sitting up in its bed in silence, feeling it move in their hair, letting their children sleep. The wind steadies, settles into itself out of the northwest, cool and certain, a mover of towels, a turner of pages. The 10th night breaks like a fever, quietly, while almost everyone it happened to is dreaming. The wind does not arrive all at once. It arrives the way the tide comes into a marsh, in long pushes with rests between, each push reaching a little further into the heat, each rest a little shorter, and you lie on your back on the roof of the tenement and feel 10 days of siege being lifted off the city a pound at a time. The first pushes are scouts. They come up over the northwest parapet, run the length of the roof, swing the towels, and die away. And in the pauses, the old heat rises back up around you like water closing over a stone. But every push is cooler than the last, and longer. And somewhere in that slow argument, the balance tips, and there comes a moment you could not put a minute to it, when the pauses stop being warm. The air lying on the roof is new air now. The wind has stopped visiting and moved in, and the roof answers it in its sleep. That is the part you will try to tell people about someday, and never quite manage. Nobody wakes. The village sleeps straight through its own deliverance. And yet, every soul on the tar answers the wind some way, body by body, like a field answering it stalk by stalk. The grandmother, with the bound knees, rolls to her side and draws her shawl up over her shoulder. The first cover anyone on this roof has wanted in 10 nights. Mrs. Brennan, dead asleep, reaches out one arm and tucks the blanket edge around Tommy without ever surfacing. A mother's hand doing its rounds while the mother is miles away. Old Schmidt the lodger pulls his knees up an inch. 2 blankets over. A man you never learned the name of laughs once. Low, at something in a dream. The sound of a man being handed good news somewhere on the far side of sleep. And the breathing changes. All of it. You lie there and listen to it happen. 40 sleepers going down a stair. You did not know sleep had the shallow, careful sipping of hot weather deepening into long, slow drafts. Chests actually rising now. Bodies unclenching fist by fist. Taking on rest, the way Brennan said, the men take on water. Slow, slow, and holding every drop. For 10 nights this roof has slept the way a man sleeps, sitting up in a chair. Tonight, an hour before dawn, it finally lies down inside itself. The baby wakes once. You hear the wicker creak and the small stirring, and you come up on your elbow out of pure trained instinct. And so does Mrs. Russo on her stool. Both of you soldiers of the earlier watches, and then both of you stand down at the same moment, because the sound coming out of the basket is nothing that needs a soldier. The baby is not crying. She is talking to herself. A little run of syllables, curious and unhurt. The sound a baby makes when something interesting is happening to its ceiling. And what is happening to her ceiling is the corner of the wet sheet, lifted by the wind, waving. She watches it wave. The syllables wind down like a little clock. She sleeps. Mrs. Russo settles back and winds her rosary hand over hand. And across the little distance, you hear her say something in Italian, soft, addressed to nobody on this roof. And you do not need the language. Some sentences are thanks in every tongue there is. Far off, out over the harbor or beyond it, the sky says one word, thunder, but old thunder, rounded, worn smooth by miles, less a sound than a change in the pressure of the dark, and no one even steers. A while after it, the first drops come. Not many. 5. Seas. Big uns. Flung ahead of weather that is mostly passing north of the island, and they land on the tar around you. Spot, spot, heavy as coins, and where each one strikes, the roof answers with a smell. You know that smell. Everybody who has ever lived through an August knows it. Rain on hot tar and hot stone and hot dust. The smell of the first water getting into all the places the heat has owned for weeks. Bitter and sweet and mineral all at once. The whole day's fever coming off the city in steam you can taste. Country rain smells green. This is city rain. Iron and rooftops and salt. And lying in it, you would not trade it even for the hayfields. Because this smell has 40 sleeping people inside it. And every one of them is going to wake up free. The drops pass. The wind stays. That is the bargain the sky offers tonight. And the roof accepts it without waking. Sometime in that hour you notice one more thing. The kind of small fact this night has taught you to collect. The tin basin under the burlap bundle has gone silent. You listen a long time and it does not tick, and you think at first the ice must be spent, and then you look, and the bundle still hangs there, turning its slow quarter turns, fat and dark and dripless. It is not gone. It has stopped melting. The air has simply quit taking it. The wrapped block swings easy on its rope, keeping what it has, like everything else on this roof, and the night, which owes nobody here one thing more, goes quietly about the business of becoming morning. Dawn comes up gray and silver, and for the first time in 10 days, it comes up like a gift instead of a sentence. You have watched 9 of these dawns from a train window and a ferry rail and a straw mattress, and every one of them arrived the same way, red and swollen over Brooklyn. The sun climbing out of the harbor, already angry, and the whole city bracing under it before breakfast. This one is different from the first light. The sky goes pearl, then a soft, clean white, and stays there, holding, and the sun, when it finally clears, the rooftops comes through air that has been washed and wrung, and lies down mild across the tar and the blankets and the sleeping faces, like something that has decided, after long consideration, to be forgiven. The roof wakes the way it does everything, family by family. No, Belle, and you notice at once that the waking is different this morning. For 9 mornings, Tommy tells you later, the roof woke like men reporting for a shift, silent, already spending, already counting the hours to the next dark. This morning, it wakes slow, and it wakes talking. Somebody laughs before 6 o'clock, out loud, and nobody hushes them. 2 women fold a blanket between them and stop halfway, just to stand in the moving air with their faces into it. The blankets slack between them like a sail waiting on an order. The grandmother sits up, works her freed knees one at a time, pronounces something in Yiddish that makes her daughter laugh, and begins, on the spot, to braid her hair for the day. The wind holds steady out of the northwest, cool as well water. Down in the street a wagon passes at a trot, an actual trot, the first you have heard in this city. hooves ringing bright and long strided off the house fronts. A horse, with its chin up, and Kessler, rolling his bedding by the chimney, lifts his head at the sound and nods once. The satisfied nod of a man hearing an instrument come back into tune. The striking of the camp is a ceremony too. It turns out, the morning ceremony. And this morning, it is performed with a difference that nobody announces and everybody understands. The bedrolls are tied. The stools and crates of the night fence are gathered up and stacked against the chimney's south face. Squared away, neat. And Mr. Brennan, setting the last crate on the stack, pats it the way Kessler patted the ice. For next summer, he says, and that is all. 4 words. And the whole history of this street is in them somewhere. The summers survived, and the summer's coming. The fence that will be built again some hot July evening years from now, by some of these same hands and some new ones. The roof already keeping its own seed corn. Nobody solemnizes it. He says it the way a farmer says it, hanging up a scythe. The baby goes down the ladder first, in her basket, handed hatch to haul, like something precious being lowered out of a ship. And the sheet around the wicker is dry now, and nobody re-wets it. The milk bottle goes down, standing up to its neck in the basin. One last piece of the wrapped ice riding beside it. And the rest of the block, still respectable, still keeping, is divided on the parapet by Kessler's chisel into a last small sharing, a piece to the tailor and his wife, a piece to the grandmother, a piece to Mrs. Brennan for the morning. Talk, the old grammar. All is well. Tommy sleeps through the whole embarkation. He lies in the middle of the emptying roof, flung out like a swimmer. 10 days of a 9-year-old's duties paid off at last in one long draft. And by unspoken agreement, the entire building steps around him. His mother stands over him a moment, blanket folded across her arms, and does not wake him. And the look on her face in the new, cool light is not a thing you have a word for. But you would carry a lot of ice to be looked at like that once. Miss Adler goes down with her tin box under her arm, and pauses at the hatch, and looks back once across the roof, at the chimney, the stacked stools, the parapet corner where the ice was shared, the way a person looks at a room they know they will describe in a letter. Colorado is going to hear about this night. You think the bucket and the 2 blankets are finally going to get an answer worth their postage. You go down among the last, with your own blanket over your shoulder, and Kessler comes down behind you, the watchman leaving the wall only when the wall is empty, and the ladder rungs under your hands are cool, and the stairwell, that chimney of misery you climbed 100 years ago yesterday, is just a stairwell, moving air from the roof hatch clear down to the street door. The whole building breathing through itself at last like a thing with lungs. The Brennan's rooms, when you carry your blanket in, have surrendered. The walls have gone over to the new administration entirely. Plaster, cool to the palm, and the lace curtain over the air shaft window, the one that hung all night like a drawing of a curtain, is moving, lifting and falling, easy and endless, the breath of a house asleep. Mrs. Brennan sets the coffee on, a fire in the stove for the first time in days, and nobody minding it. and through the window comes the morning racket of Orchard Street, stretching itself, shutters, pale, wheels, a peddler trying out his voice, and under all of it, faint and silver and unhurried, from somewhere over toward Delancey, the bell of an ice wagon making its rounds in a city that this morning, for the first morning in 10, merely wants it. You spread your blanket back on the straw mattress in the corner. You rent for 10 cents a week, 4 steps by 5. That room, smaller than the sky. It looks, this morning, like the finest patch on the roof. Tonight, you think, folding the blanket square, the whole building will sleep in its beds. And then you think, no, not the whole building, because you have a suspicion, listening to the curtain lift and fall, that on some night next August, when the bricks begin their hoarding again, you will hear boots in the hall and a knock at the door, and Tommy with his dark lantern, and you will roll your blanket like a veteran and climb toward the stars with your neighbors. And part of you, the part this night built, is already looking forward to it. The record books will tell you that on the 13th of August, 1896, the wind over New York swung into the northwest, and the temperature fell away through the night. And by the following evening, the city slept cool for the first time in 10 days. The heat wave was over. It had lasted a week and a half, and it never made the kind of history that fires and floods make, because it left no ruins standing to photograph. It simply passed, the way a fever passes. And the city got up the next morning and went back to work. But the people who lived through it never filed it away with ordinary weather. Close to 1,300 men, women, and children in New York and neighboring Brooklyn did not live to feel that wind turn. Most of them were taken quietly, in small brick rooms that never cooled, in the districts where the buildings stood shoulder to shoulder and the windows opened on air shafts 3 feet wide. They were working men and grandmothers and infants in wicker baskets. And their names filled the columns of the papers for a week. And that is why the people you met tonight carried their blankets up a ladder every evening. They knew exactly what they were climbing away from. And the city learned, slowly, the way cities learn. But it learned. The ice that a police commissioner handed out of a wagon on Delancey Street became, in summers, after a regular mercy, ice stations in the hot months, floating baths anchored in the rivers. And in time, there came new laws for the building of tenements. Laws that said every room must have its window, and every window must open on real air and real light. Nobody passed those laws because of one hot August alone, but the men who wrote them remembered it. And the man with the spectacles and the mustache, who walked the tenement roofs at dawn to see how the other half slept, carried what he saw there for the rest of a very large life. The roofs themselves kept their custom for a generation, long after that August. On the hot nights of every summer, the people of the East Side climbed toward the stars with their bedding on their shoulders, and the rooftop villages rose at dusk and folded themselves away at dawn. And children who slept there grew old and told their grandchildren about it. The whole sky for a ceiling, the towels on the line, the watchman with his pipe. You made it through. You always were going to. That was never the question the knight was asking. The question the knight was asking was the one Mrs. Russo and old Kessler, and a 9-year-old boy with a dark lantern, answered without ever once saying it out loud. The question of what people will do for one another when the walls give no shelter and the only roof worth having is the one they share. You saw the answer. Vinegar in an old woman's palm. Salt in a dipper of water. 10 pounds of January. Divided by chisel light among 40 sleepers. And the coolest corner of the roof given away. Every single night. To whoever needed it most. The wind is in from the northwest now. The ice is in the basin. The curtain is lifting and falling over the airshaft window. Easy and endless. And 4 stories below you, the city is already dreaming. Block by block. Roof by roof. All the way down to the harbor where the barges ride low with next week's winter. Close your eyes now. Somebody is keeping the watch. And the morning coming is a kind one. Sweet dreams.